Good evening. This is a flight from Amman, Queen Alia Airport to Chicago O'Hare Airport using a Boeing 777. This is the PMDG 777 and the Microsoft Flight Simulator. And I put the Royal Jordanian Airlines livery that I really like. Plus I'm also from Jordan, so proud to be flying Royal Jordanian Airlines aircraft today. The flight time will be 11 hours and 40 minutes from takeoff to touchdown with a total distance of 5,550 miles. This is not going to be a 13 hours video. The way I'm going to do it is basically cover the cockpit setup from a cold and dark state, taxi to the runway, take off and reach cruising altitude. Then I'm gonna pause the video or the recording actually, and then come back later when we are about to descend into Chicago. Okay, so with that being the plan, let's get started. Okay, everything is turned off in the cockpit. Everything is dark, hence the cold and dark state. Let's get that initiated and started. Starting with the battery, connect the battery, then connect external power, cabin and seats, and basically infotainment system turned on. Those are the two buttons for that. Adiro on. Emergency lights on, window heats on, hydraulics on, and then all of these switches switched to auto. Seat belts auto. No smoking, you can leave it at on or you can put it at auto. What else here? Nothing for now. Beacon lights on, navigation lights on, strobe lights on. And then anti-ice, all switches on, basically the engine anti-ice and the wing anti-ice all on auto. Fuel pumps, we keep it untouched for now. We will come back to these later. Up here, nothing we need to do. Air conditioning, we leave everything on auto, including the left pack and the right pack. Bleed system on auto. It's gonna kick in as soon as we turn on the APU to start feeding the engines with air pressure to assist with their startup. Nothing else here. Pressurization left at auto, which basically will take our cruising altitude and pressurize the cabin for that altitude. Good for now. Let's move to the flight computer and see what we have. Start with setting up the fuel. Let's grab the flight plan and then basically look at it. Okay, total fuel needed 227,181 pounds. It's a long flight, so lots of fuel. Even though it's only using 70% of the fuel capacity for this, the 777. Go back here, set the payload, passengers. We have a full flight, 370 passengers, 12 first class, 42 business, and 316 economy. So we will keep it there. Next page, cargo. We have 18,500. So let's distribute those. Put 9,000 on the forward, another 9,000 for AFT, and 500 for the bulk. This will give us a center of gravity of 29%, which is okay. Anything else here? No. We return and go to the FMC. Set the initial position, basically grab it from the GPS and then paste it here. Reference airport, it's going to be Oscar Juliet Alpha India. That's the airport code for Queen Alia. Gate, let's see. I don't see the gate anywhere here. So let's leave it, plus we don't need it actually. Let's click on route. Origin, same thing. Runway, from the flight plan we're gonna use runway 26 right. Destination KORD. I put it under flight number, which is not correct. Let's type it again. Flight number Royal Jordanian 263. Activate, execute, and let's click on next page. So there are multiple ways to enter your route. You can enter the waypoint one by one on this page, which will be too many for a long flight, or you could select departures and arrivals, or departure arrival here, and enter your departure and then arrival, and then the flight computer will create a route for you. So starting with departures 26 right, and we're using SID or standard instrument departure MOA 6 Delta. So that's this one right here. Click on departure arrivals again to select the arrival, but it's not doing anything for some reason. So normally if you click this twice you will go to the main page and be able to select your arrival, but I don't think this is an option. So I don't know, it's either a bug, or for a very long flight you don't need to select the arrival at the departing gate, because you still don't know. Things might change, the weather might change, so sorry about that. So it makes sense not to select arrival just yet. Let's see what legs it selected. Basically it's just defining the SID or the departure route, which is not enough. So I don't know, let's see. Another way of doing it is if we grab the route from SimBrief, okay, and then go back here, click on route, and let's request that route from SimBrief. We can as well set the payload and the fuel again, but we don't have to. So actually let's just do it. Select fuel, set payload, clear, select route requesting, so we will give it a few seconds. Okay, route ready, so we click load. I think it's uploaded, so let's activate it. Performance calculations, we can also accept it now that we have all the data pulled from SimBrief, so let's accept it. Zero fuel weight, then all of this is correct. We are cruising at flight level 320, that's correct. Cost index 200, correct. Everything else is set. Thrust limit, so this is going to be a heavy plane, fully loaded with passengers. It has some cargo and it's almost fully loaded with fuel, so we're going to use the normal takeoff setting, which is 100% thrust. We're not going to derate that because you're not going to be able to take off using the runway length that we have on 26 right. So we'll keep that selected on TO and then normal climb profile. Move to the takeoff page. For takeoff we will use 15 flaps or flaps 15. Center of gravity, we will pull that number 27%, which will require a trim of 5.25 degrees. And the reference speeds are not shown, so we can't see them. Let's clear that error first, and then so this normally happens when you don't have the runway defined, the departure runway defined, which I thought we did, but let's see. Okay, it's gone. I'm sure this went away when we requested the route from SimBrief, so let's put that runway again. Execute, takeoff. Okay, now we have the reference speed, so let's just confirm them. And then V2 is 174. We rotate 167. Alright, everything is good here. VNav, let's set the transition level. So for that, let's tune to the ATIS.
Runways 08 left
and listen to
8
it.
left, 8 right, 08 right. Visual approaches in use. Advise on course heading, altitude, and if flight following is requested. Read back all runway and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have information. Quebec. Queen Alia International Airport, information Quebec. 0800
Let's turn on the flight directors while listening to the ATIS.
Visibility 10.
Set the altitude to the cruising altitude 32,000.
No clouds. Temperature 21. Dew point 6. QNH 1022. Transition level 135.
Okay, transition level 135.
08 left. 8 left.
Let's go back and
right,
set it here before we forget.
Right. Visual approaches in use. Advise on course heading.
And might as well pull the
is requested.
Forecast
Read
winds
back all
for
runway
descent.
and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have information. Quebec. Queen Alia International Airport.
Go back here.
Information
Set
Quebec.
legs. Initial
0800
reference or
wind
init ref.
075 at 18. Visibility 10.
Go back here.
Sky conditions.
So
No
we turned on
significant
flight
clouds.
directors
Temperature 21.
and we were setting
Dew
the
point
cruising
6.
altitude set.
QNH 1022.
Heading for runway
Transition level
256 in
135.
case we want to fly runway
Arriving
heading
and
first.
departing runways 08
Is
left.
256
8 left,
degrees.
8 right, 08 right. Visual approaches in use.
And then initial
Advise on
speed,
course
let's
heading,
do 230
altitude,
knots.
And if flight following is requested, read back all runway and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have information. Quebec.
Cool. What else?
Queen Alia International Airport, information Quebec.
Let's put the display here on
0800
air so we
Zulu.
can monitor the
Wind
progress
075 at
while
18.
we turn on the
Visibility
APU.
10.
So in
Sky
preparation of
conditions,
turning on the
no
APU,
significant
you switch to
clouds.
the air display.
Temperature 21.
Altimeter to Pascal
2.6.
since we are in the Middle East.
QNH 1022. Transition level 135.
And what else?
Arriving and
Let's
departing
ask for
runways 08
clearance.
left. 8 left.
Queen Alia ground, good evening. How are you doing today?
United 264, Queen Alia ground, good evening. I am doing well, thank you.
Good. Request IFR clearance to Chicago O'Hare. That's Oscar Romeo Delta Airport. Thank you. So I came to this view in preparation of setting the squawk code right here on the right
United
hand side.
264, information Quebec is current. Cleared to Chicago O'Hare via the MOUA 6 Delta departure, then as filed. Departure runway 26 right. Initial climb altitude 6,000 feet. Departure on 128.9er squawk 5447.
Clear to Chicago O'Hare via the MOA 6 Delta departure, then as filed, departure runway 26 right, initial climb altitude 6,000 feet, departure on 128.9er, squawk 5447, United 264. Okay, squawk 5447, let's
United 264, read back, correct.
And ident, make sure this is set on TARA. It is actually, we're identified. Okay, go back here. Let's turn on the APU. Fuel pumps on all of them, left tank, right tank and center tank, because we have fuel in every single tank. And then we turn on the APU first on the on position, and then you turn it to the start position. It will go back to the on, but you have to do that step to turn the APU on and wait for it to be up and running before we proceed. Anything else we need to do here before we basically push back? I think we're all good here and here, and we go to this display to monitor the APU progress. So first thing, the APU box down here will turn green, and then you will start seeing that air flowing in those lines, indicating that the APU is up and running. So after the APU, and I'm saying this just to remind myself, actually, after the APU turns on, we're gonna switch off the external power, remove the wheel shocks or chocks, and then ask for pushback and engine startup clearance. Okay, that sound that you're hearing indicates that the APU is up and running, which it is actually. So we're done with this view. We'll switch back to the engine view because we will be monitoring that in a few seconds. And we have the APU on. Now you can disconnect the external power and go to the iPad and ground operations, remove chocks, and then while you do that you engage the parking brake, because just in case, I mean, we're gonna release that before pushback. Okay, let's ask for pushback, maybe. Yeah, we will continue the setup of the legs page when we are in the US, just before beginning our descent, because as you can see here, it selected everything but not the arrival. So which makes sense. We're gonna ask for what runway is assigned to us, and then choose that in the departure arrival page. Hopefully that will populate the arrival options to choose from when we are in the air. So we shall see. Okay, APU on, wheel chocks removed. We can ask for pushback. United 264, ready for pushback and start.
United 264, pushback and start approved. Face east.
Okay. And I wish the PMDG 777 has the pushback enabled here, or maybe I'm doing something wrong, but on the 737 you can request pushback from this page. However, if I click pushback here, nothing happens, so that's why I'm doing it from the Microsoft Flight Simulator menu that you see on the left hand side. So we go to ground services, request pushback, and then we're gonna turn the plane to the right. Might as well release the parking brake. Let's see. Okay, it's released. As soon as we start pushing back, we're gonna begin our engine startup, beginning with engine number 1 or the left engine, and then do engine number 2 or the right engine. Okay, pushback began. Engine number 1, move this to the start position, and then go to the throttle and watch for N2 to reach 20%. Then we can start introducing the fuel to engine number 1. Okay, 20%. How is pushback going? Good. And then we go back here and watch when this is done. When this is done and engine number 1 is up and running, this knob will move back to the normal position. We do the same thing with engine number 2, and we should be good to start taxiing. Okay. That's good. Stop. Okay, pushback stopped. We immediately engage the parking brake because we are starting engines. Although the throttle on idle, it can still have some thrust that can move the plane downwards. Okay, engine number 1 is on. We do the same thing with engine number 2. So put it on the start position, wait for N2 to reach 20%, and then we introduce fuel. Okay. While waiting for engine number 2 to start up, we can turn on the taxi lights. Yeah, I guess we have to wait before we proceed to checking the hydraulics and start taxiing. In my opinion, the startup of the 777 is easier than the 737, in the sense that there is a lot of things that are auto selected, and it will do the job in an auto mode. For example, the bleed, you don't have to open the bleed to let the air through to the engines. Everything happens in auto here, so that's good. Okay, both engines are up and running. Now we can turn off the APU, and the L pack or the left and right packs will be on soon. Just give it a few minutes. It will do that by itself, so you don't have to click on for the left and right packs. Okay, so let's do a few things before we start taxiing. Flaps at 15. And trim at 5.25. It's 4.5, 5.25. Okay. Let's check the hydraulics. Right aileron, left aileron, elevator up, elevator down, right rudder, left rudder, and spoilers. Everything is working. Let's ask for clearance to taxi. United 264, ready for taxi.
United 264, taxi to runway 26 right via November Golf Hotel. Contact tower on 119.8 when ready for departure.
Taxi to runway 26 right via November Golf Hotel. Will contact tower when ready for departure. United 264. This is a United Airlines Dreamliner. I think it's 787-9, if I am not mistaken. Okay, we're doing just fine on time. I think departure time was in 5 minutes from now, and we started taxiing 5 minutes before departure, which is just fine. So alright, so this guy is apparently not seeing a huge 777 behind it. He's probably taxiing with us to runway 26 right, so it's gonna be a boring taxi waiting for him to... oh boy. Alright, well, at least he's fast. So again, just reminding you with the sequence of events in this video, we're gonna take off, reach the cruising altitude of flight level 320, then pause the recording, come back when we're about to descend into Chicago, just to make the video less than 2 hours. I don't know, like, at least me, when I see a full flight video on YouTube, for example, there is 13 hours. I don't watch all of it. I mean, I can barely sit down and watch a movie for 2 to 3 hours. So that's the whole point. Plus the critical items in a flight are, you know, set up at the gate, taxi, takeoff, and landing. Plus the approach. Sometimes the approach could be tricky, so we're at least covering all of those in this video. There's an aircraft landing on 26 right, so it will do that before we even hold short, I think. So very useful add-ons for Microsoft Flight Simulator that I find myself are one, the ATC, or the air traffic module that I use. It's called SayIntentions AI. It's a paid software, but I find it really worth it. Another thing I'm using is FSRealistic. It basically adds realistic sounds and movement in your aircraft. Pretty good, actually. It's a must-have. And the third one is the traffic add-on, the flight traffic add-on, FSLTL, I think that's how it's called.
United 264, contact tower on 119.8 so long.
If you ask me what add-on out of those three is my best, I would say the FSRealistic, which is a free add-on. If I remember correctly, I think it was free, but it's been a long time since I downloaded it. Anyway, that was the must-have for me. Okay, let's add some dome light and ask for clearance to take off. Landing lights on, taxi lights off. And contact the tower for clearance. United 264, holding short runway 26 right, ready for departure. Everything is good up here.
United 264, Queen Alia Tower, runway 26 right, hold short, Airbus on the runway.
Airbus on the runway, where is it? Okay, it's that one that just landed. I thought that was like 3 minutes ago, but okay. Final check, flaps 15, altitude, initial speed, heading, trim, and of course we have enough fuel for a very long flight. Is that Airbus still on the runway?
264, Queen Alia Tower, runway 26 right, wind 075 at 18, cleared for takeoff.
Okay, we received the clearance. United 264, runway 26 right, cleared for takeoff. Thank you. So the way I'm gonna accelerate down the runway is using the toga button. As soon as I line up, I'm gonna push that toga button and we will be accelerating and then eventually taking off when we reach the rotate speed. Okay, toga. Let's clear the alert.
80 knots. Positive rate of climb.
Gears up. Nav, autopilot, VNav. I think you need to reach like 500 feet. Flaps 5. Flaps 1.
United 264, contact departure on 128.9er.
Flaps up. Let's contact departure. United 264 just took off, heading 280, altitude 5000.
United 264, Amman approach, radar contact, cleared, direct AI 601.
Clear direct AI 601, United 264. So that's AI 601, I don't know where that is, but it's somewhere on the flight map on our route.
Radar contact.
Everything is good up here, and we're almost reaching 10,000 feet. So let's go ahead and turn off the landing lights.
Come on. Delta India Charlie Oscar Mike
Next
Amman,
on my
approach, climb and
mind
maintain
is once we
12,000.
reach the transition level or the transition altitude of 135, we're gonna switch the altimeter reading to the standard sea level value. And this thing on our left, it's the Dead Sea. A must visit for those who haven't visited yet.
Passing and maintaining 12000, Charlie Oscar Mike.
Pilatus Charlie Oscar Mike, climb and maintain flight level 230.
So again, the plan here is cruising altitude, and I don't know if I'm repeating myself. I just realized that I said that too many times, but anyway, one last time. Reach cruising altitude, pause, come back when we are descending into Chicago. As simple as that.
United 264, contact Amman Center on 128.5.
Will do. Amman Center, good evening. How are you doing today?
Heading 065, vectors for the ILS, runway 26 left approach, affirmative. Piper Charlie Oscar Mike.
United 264, Amman Center, identified. Good evening.
Cross the transition level, so let's set that to standard.
Contact Amman approach on 128.9er.
Contact Amman approach on 128.9. Amman approach on 128.9.
LL 971 Heavy, Amman Center, climb and maintain flight level 320.
Flight level 320, LAL 971.
Still some climbing to do. We are still at 18,000 feet, 14,000 feet or feet more to go. So probably in about 5-10 minutes maybe.
ALL 971 Heavy, climb and maintain flight level 330.
Climb and maintain flight level 330, LAL 971 Heavy. Amman Center require 974 Heavy, inbound Quebec Alpha Alpha 01 at flight level 300, descending to 6,000 feet.
Israel 974 Heavy, Amman Center, good evening.
Ben Gurion approach on 118.75, Israel 974 Heavy. On center, Pilatus Delta India Charlie Oscar Mike, flight level 134, climbing flight level 250.
United 264, contact Tel Aviv CTL East Center on 127.65.
Only 3,000 feet. Let's see how far is the top of climb point. It's right here, and that's about 40 miles away, so at about 40 miles we're going to reach the cruising altitude. Current speed 320 knots, ground speed 441 miles per hour, and we have a little bit of headwind. So headwind is effectively going to cost you more fuel if you want to keep flying against it to reach your destination on time, especially for long flights. Or it will slow you down if you don't want to exceed your fuel allocated fuel.
Good evening, QNH 1013.
QNH 1013, initially India, flying.
Let's open the arrival chart since we have some time. Runway 28 right, and we're using an ILS approach. Relatively easy, actually it's easy. We're coming
United
from
264,
here,
contact Tel Aviv CTL East on 127.65.
Landing on runway 28 right. Chicago here has a lot of runways, as you could see. First fix 2200 feet, we're gonna program that later just before we begin our descent. Final approach course and localizer frequency, these normally you would set manually on a Boeing 737, but on the 777 these are auto selected, so once we click the departure back here, once you are able to click departure arrivals and choose runway 28 right with an ILS approach, it will set those values in the flight management computer to be later used when you do the ILS approach. I would just go there and make sure that they become live when you are about to descend, but they're auto-selected. Minimum altitude that we need to set later is 200 feet.
Piper 7621, Charlie, Tel Aviv, CTL East Center. Say again.
And I think that's it. We're going to come back here a lot more before we begin our descent. So it's good to know that it's going to be an easy approach.
Landing for 300.
ISR Air 973 Heavy, Amman Center, roger.
Missed
ISR Air 973 Heavy, climb and
approach
maintain flight level
altitude
340.
Procedure climb to 1100 feet, then climbing left,
973.
turn to 4000,
Climb and
heading
maintain
to
flight level 340,
5.
is Air 9073.
So basically you fly runway heading while climbing to 4000 feet and then turn left to 215 degrees.
Descending 300.
Almost there at our cruising altitude, currently at 29.5 thousand feet. So in about 1 to 2 minutes we're gonna reach it.
Piper Delta India, Charlie Oscar Mike, Amman Center. Good evening.
Amman Center, Piper Delta India Charlie Oscar Mike, requesting descent to flight level 6000.
United 264, contact Tel Aviv CTL East Center on 127.65.
Tel Aviv Center, good evening, how are you doing today?
United 264, Tel Aviv CTL East Center, identified. Good evening.
Ascot 354, contact Nicosia radar on
Actually, let's try
130.0.
and do departure arrival.
Radar on 130.0, Ascot 54.
So it works. This is the page that I was looking at or looking for at the gate. Departure selection, you click
Israel
here.
571 Heavy,
Arrival.
climb and maintain flight level 340.
We needed runway 28
maintain
right.
340,
Let's
Israel
choose ILS 28 right, and then execute. We're not going to use a star for now. Let's see how the legs look like. Okay, so there is a discontinuity
Israel
here.
571 Heavy, contact Nicosia radar on
FMT.
130.0.
And Adami. So
130.0,
let me pull the
571.
Navigraph
Bye-bye.
charts and see what that is.
Climb maintain 340, expect to 102.
So it doesn't need and consume PC memory. Report from SimBrief, latest flight, and that's what we have. Okay, so between, actually let's first select the approach of ILS 28 right. So ILS 28 right approach is this orange route here.
X-ray Victor
So we can't
102,
use
contact
this
Nicosia radar on 130.0.
arrival or this star.
Nicosia radar on 120.0.
The discontinuity on our flight
Bye-bye.
management computer is between
Contact radar
FMT
130.0, thanks, bye bye.
and let's
Climb and
find
maintain
it.
flight level 380, Israel
So we
571.
either could fly direct from FNT to Adami by clearing that discontinuity, or we can add one more point here. Let's do VOGLR and then continue. Let me move that window to
Israel
another screen
571 Heavy, contact Nicosia radar on
so I can
130.0.
work on both at the same time.
Nicosia radar on 130.0, Israel 571.
Okay.
Israel
So
65906.
FNT and then
Do you need us to further descend?
GLR. Next page. MO Tango Tango Tango.
Descend to 6,000 feet and left, heading 115 vectors for the ILS runway 30
Romeo,
approach.
India
Israel
Charlie
6596.
Kilo.
United 264, contact Nicosia
Violet.
radar on 130.0.
And then Bluto. And then Roxy. ROCSE. And after that, Wavy. after that becomes Adami. So let's clear that discontinuity, and then after that wilt and runway 28 right, and then the missed approach procedure. Make sure there is no more discontinuity, everything is good. Alright, so we're finally good to go. When I was talking about the ILS frequency and the final approach course, I was basically referring to, now that we have entered ILS 28 right as our arrival, before beginning your descent, you need to make sure that once you press on the nav rod, you see your ILS frequency and approach course here. This will stay at park for most of the flight. It will only change to showing 111.1/273 when you're getting closer to Chicago. So just one thing to keep monitoring and make sure it's selected. Okay, we reached our cruising altitude. We can now pause, and I will come back to you when we're descending into Chicago. Okay, so began our descent into Chicago like 10 minutes ago, and we are currently at 16,000 feet. Actually, let's change this to inches now that we are above the US. So 2992 inches. I set my first fixed altitude, which we will descend to before we begin our final descent into the runway. What else? So yeah, let's make sure the approach course and the localizer frequency are set. So they're selected, and minimum altitude we said 200 feet. So let's do that here. FMC message, I'm gonna read it as soon as I set the bottle. Probably request some drag, so let's put the speed brakes on. Yeah, FMC message alert went away, so it must be the speed. Oh man, it's taking forever to set this bottle.
American 670 descend via windy 2 for the runway 10 right approach into Chicago. Altimeter 2980.
Descend via the windy arrival.
Okay, 203 will work. Let's slow down a little bit, so let's control the speed rather than have it controlled by VNAV. Let's do 275 first. Or 270 knots. Cool. We're slightly below the glide path, as you can see, like 300 feet below the glide path, but we're doing just fine. Altitude 10,000 now. Let's turn on the landing lights. Okay, how we're doing. So if I pull my Navigraph charts, we are here, and this is like the ILS approach into runway 28 right. Close it, I don't need it anymore.
Descend and maintain 8,000, American 670.
So we're pretty close actually. We should start slowing down like pretty quickly. So speed brake engaged. Let's do 230 knots. Let's do some radio communication. Missed approach, climbed to 1100 feet, then climbing left turn to 4000 feet. So missed approach altitude is 4000 feet, heading 215. Yeah, so basically you fly runway heading and then you turn left heading 215 degrees. Let's put the runway heading for now, 273. 256 was the runway heading during departure.
Southwest 912, proceed direct to the Blanc intersection.
Okay.
Traffic.
Direct to Blanc intersection, Southwest
Adjust
912.
vertical speed. Adjust.
Okay, 3 miles from Mott, and then we have 3 plus 3, 6, 12 miles, and then 9, 21, 26 miles to the runway. Let's actually add a fix so we know when we're 10 miles and 5 miles from the runway. First fix at 10 miles. Second fix at 5 miles.
Descend, crossing, descend.
Let's see what traffic is that.
United 264, traffic at your 12 o'clock, 2 miles. Same altitude type unknown.
Same altitude type unknown, and it's like
United 264, traffic at your 12 o'clock, 4 miles. Same altitude type unknown.
I'm not gonna do anything, it's probably climbing, so it should be just fine. Um, 220 knots, speed brakes on, and see, this is our first fix, that first circle that we see.
United 264, contact Chicago Tower
It's 10
on
miles from the runway,
126.8.
so we should probably be slowing down quicker than this. Auto brake at 2 and landing lights on. Let's contact Chicago Tower. Chicago Tower, good evening, how are you doing today?
United
Flaps
264 Chicago Tower. Good evening. I'm doing well, thank you. United 264 Chicago Tower, make straight in for runway 28 right.
Copy that, we'll fly straight to runway 28 right, United 264.
Traffic at your 12 o'clock, 4 miles. Same altitude type unknown.
So they keep repeating that same message, so I'm just gonna ignore it.
Short, runway 27 center, ready for departure.
United 264, traffic at your 12 o'clock, 4 miles, at 9,000 type unknown.
Flaps 2 or 5 actually.
Chicago Tower, this is
I keep mixing up between the 777 and the 787, the Dreamliner.
10 right, visual approach. Tower American 525, direction 524, we have the runway in sight.
What else do we need to do for final descent? So we are at 66
American
100
524, wind
feet,
180 at 18,
which
runway
is
10
above the
right,
glide
clear to
path.
land.
So let's switch to
Clear to land, runway 10
vertical
right,
speed
American
mode.
524. Aqua Tower, United 2082, 3 miles south of runway 28, Charlie.
We need to catch up with the glide path. So, oh man, and that's the runway. That's pretty close.
United 264, traffic at your 12 o'clock, 2 miles. Same altitude, type unknown.
I hope we don't have to do a go around. I don't know what happened, but we missed the glide path when we switched the VNAV off. So that's an oversight. Let's see if we catch up while maintaining relatively slow speed. If not, we will have to do a go around. Let's see what the approach speed is. Okay, 142 with flaps 30. That's doable if we descend to the glide slope. Okay, we're pretty close. That's not too bad. Actually, we can start slowing down our descent. Cool. We hit the 10-mile radius, so we are at the first fix. We caught up with the glide slope. We're good. Speed is not too bad. Currently at 191 knots. And I usually, with the 777 at 10 miles away, I usually like to be at 170 something at least. So let's do flaps 15.
2500.
6029 Whiskey on final.
We could potentially intercept with the ILS right now. Let's see if it works. And stuttering is so bad. We reached our first fixed altitude, 2200 feet, still too low below the ILS beam, so we will intercept with it pretty soon. Let's use this time to slow down a little bit.
Contact ground on 118.05. Chicago Tower, November 6229, Papa, official approach, runway 1077.
6 miles away, flaps 15, speed 163. Flaps 20. Landing gear down. I knew it. This is the landing gear alarm, just to remind you that you haven't done it yet, but I did at the same time. The alarm came off, so we'll just give it a few seconds to recognize that the landing gear is down.
Runway 10 left. Descend and maintain 3000 until established on the localizer contact. Chicago approach on 119.0.
Flaps 30, and we caught up with the ILS beam.
Total London, have a good day.
42. Final approach speed. We're good to go here. Let's set the missed approach altitude to 4000. Okay. Everything is good to go. Speed brake armed.
Runway 28 right, clear to land.
We're currently 980 feet above the ground. Let's disengage the auto throttle. And soon we're gonna disengage autopilot. Let's start the replay tool so we can get you some nice videos for landing.
United 233, roger, fly runway heading, climb and maintain 4000.
United 264, 2 miles from the runway, landing shortly, runway 28 right, thank you.
I'm holding short, runway 22 left.
Okay, 500 feet from the runway, autopilot disconnected.
264, runway 28 right, clear to land. Winds 220 at 5.
American 05, contact departure on 125.0.
Departure, American 205, good day.
American 05, good day.
100.
O'Hare Tower, good evening.
50.
Skywest
30.
510, holding short,
20.
runway 22
10.
left, ready for departure. Departure, JetBlue 1492, holding short, runway 9 center, request departure clearance.
JetBlue 482, Chicago Tower, winds 120 at 11, runway 9er center, cleared for takeoff, fly runway heading.
United 264, contact ground on 118.05.
Contact departure.
Wasn't the best landing ever, but it wasn't bad either. I think we were slightly to the left. One mistake that I did was also not monitoring the speed. After disconnecting the auto throttle, it dropped to 130 something until I noticed when I started to actually add more thrust. Good landing in terms of like how far from the touchdown zone. I think I was within limit. Only thing is slightly to the left. But it's okay, we landed safely in Chicago. Total flight time was closer to 12 hours actually. And let's talk to ground and ask for taxi clearance now. Chicago O'Hare ground, good evening. Request taxi to the gates, just landed. Boeing 777 heavy, thank you.
United 264, taxi to E10 via Uniform 7 Uniform. Good day.
Taxi to E10 via Uniform 7 Uniform, United 264, thank you.
Hold short of runway 9er right. Contact tower on 120.75 when ready for departure.
120.75 when ready for departure. Taxi right.
It's a busy airport, lots of scenery, lots of traffic, that's why you see a little bit of stuttering. Fortunately, the stuttering during approach was not that bad, so we were lucky because normally when I record videos for this, stuttering is the worst, but it wasn't bad today, so
Twin Otter
it's
1
good.
Tree Whiskey taxi to runway 10 left via Bravo Charlie and Delta. Hold short of runway 10 left and contact tower on 120.75 when ready for departure.
Taxi to runway 10 left via Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. We'll hold short of runway 10 left and contact tower when ready for
These are
departure.
the
Twin Otter,
basically the heavy airplane gates. I think it's one of these.
Ground United 289er at stand Foxtrot 4, ready for pushback to start.
United 2289er 411 UA Chicago ground. Pushback and start approved. Expect runway 28 right for departure. Contact tower on 120.75 when ready for departure.
Chicago ground. Delta 620, hold short, runway 22 left.
Delta 1622, hold short, runway 22 left.
Hold short, runway 22 left, Delta 1622.
Brake engaged. United 264 just parked at the gate. Request shutdown.
No call or something.
United 510 Chicago ground taxi to general aviation via Mike hold short of runway, then continue taxi via November. Have a good day.
United 264, shutdown approved. Have a good evening.
Okay, we arrived. Landing lights are still on. That's wrong. We should have turned them off and turned the taxi lights on as soon as we started taxiing. Seat belts off, and we're good to go.